Olá a todos! Coming on a couple of minutes early just so we can check that everything is set up and looking good. I'll wait for a thumbs up from my team to see how we are going. I can see a few of you here already, so feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know where you are tuning in from. We love doing live sessions. Because, well, it's unexpected and it's fun. But also we get the chance to have really nice spontaneous conversations. You can ask questions and leave comments for my guests today, who are going to be telling you all about their new life in the Azores. So 24 of you. Say hi, don't be shy. Hi from Serbia. Hello. Tell us where you are in. Nebraska, Midwest. Hi, Laurie. Good to see you. Eagle's here. Hello. Melanie's here from Ancial. She actually is one of my students. She's doing super well as well. So great to see her here. Leslie is tuning in from the UK. People from Louisiana, South Africa, brilliant. Okay, so we've got people from all over the world here tuning in to hear the story of Esther and Michael. Why not go ahead and get started? We've got 1 minute to go, but I'm too excited to wait any longer. And we've got lots of you here. Hi from Cam in the Netherlands. Hi to Kat in New York. Fantastic. Let's dive in, guys, because I'm really excited to share this story today. So welcome back. This is actually the 6th of these conversations I think that we've done now. And we just love to hear how much these stories inspire you guys of people moving to Portugal and getting to a conversational level in Portuguese. It's a huge, huge challenge to take on, but it is not impossible. And that's what I'm here to demonstrate to you today with my students who are here to tell their story, Esther and Michael. So we're going to talk all about their journey, where they started, where they are now, but most importantly, how they got there. Because we really want to encourage as many of you guys as possible to start learning Portuguese, because it really is going to make such a difference to the kind of life you guys are able to live in Portugal, just as these guests are really going to kind of show us today. So if you're tuning in, hi Jenny, hi Kathleen, hi Raquel, more people joining us, fantastic. If you are tuning in, you probably do already know who I am. My name is Liz. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Talk the Streets that teaches practical Portuguese in plain English, but I'm also the creator of the Portuguese Pro program, which is an online course and community that will take you from saying your very first words up to having your very first conversations with native speakers. And that is how I met the fabulous Esther and Michael. So let's go ahead and add them to the stream so we can hear their story. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hey, hello.
Hey, Liz. Hi, everyone here.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. Beaming live from the Azores. This is wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us. So I've been following your story for about a year now since you've joined, and the experiences that you guys have had with local people and the way you've really embraced learning the language and using it is exactly why I became a teacher. It's so inspiring to watch. So I want to help people like you who are so dedicated and willing. So I can't wait to share your story today. So I've done enough talking. Let's hear from you. Let's start from the beginning. Tell us who you are and why you decided to learn Portuguese.
Can we start? Well, we're Esther and Michael. We're from the U.S. and we've lived all over, and we both have arts backgrounds, photography and writing. And fast forward, we had visited the Azores in 2018 for the first time, right?
Yeah, for the first time, summer of 2018.
Yeah. Did you want to share about that? Or?
Well, yeah. I think I discovered the Azores when I was a young kid, and it was on my wish list to always travel here. There was a National Geographic magazine that came out. It was about archipelagos, and it was like Japan, Hawaii, the Azores was in there, and I was like, God, I need to go to this place. And Esther felt a similar attraction to Portugal.
Yeah, definitely drawn to Portuguese music and literature since college. So then 2018, we had the opportunity to visit a few islands, fell in love, started fantasizing, like probably a lot of people come here, like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Haha.
That's an easy thing to do when you're
Yeah.
here. Like, think about like, oh, every place you're at, we could live here. Oh, could we live here?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it wasn't feasible or the right thing at that time. So then in last year, we decided to go ahead and make the leap and make things happen. So yeah, and we're here.
Oh, I'm so proud of you for following that dream because, yeah, I'm sure so many people can relate to coming to Portugal and being like, wait a minute, this is where I should be. This is a really special place. So that's really, really cool. So you decided to make the leap. Brilliant. Why was learning Portuguese such an important part of that? Because so many people come and they don't try and learn the language. So why was it important for you to actually make sure Portuguese is something you tackled?
Well, I mean, I'll start from the perspective of having already started to learn, and then some of the interactions that we've already come across with some local people, just in daily situations where they feel slighted by people who don't learn. Not so much that they're kind, generous people; they're going to be kind and generous regardless. But there is a noticeable difference in and they've even like confided and shared with us like, oh, it's so cool to see that you're learning. We know other people because it's a small island. It's hard to hide when there's only 8,000 people on the island. You know, that they've been here for 10 years and they don't speak. So it's, you know.
So you didn't want to be those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we're definitely interested in the history and literature and arts here. So it seems like a no-brainer that, of course, we want to integrate and learn as deeply as possible, and that would be through language. Yeah, but we have like really like specific things we want to learn, and your course like prompts us to really think about that, articulate that.
Yeah, your goals. What were the kind of very specific things you set out for in the beginning? Like, right, we're going to learn and we're going to be able to do this.
So my initial my initial goal was just very simple from the perspective of we have a neighborhood market that's about 10 minutes from where we live, 5 minutes from where we live, and the woman who owns the place, Aldina, her mother only speaks Portuguese, and I want to be able to talk with her. I want to be able to walk in and have a conversation with her, and because I feel like that makes me a good neighbor. It makes me a good friend or community member. So
yeah, and where we live on the island, we do have mostly, I think, it's a very locals community. So yeah, I think similarly, like I wanted to connect more deeply with the neighbors, our neighbors here. So yeah, important to both of us.
Brilliant. So yeah, it was a close-knit community. You knew that you wanted to be able to integrate, and actually you knew it was going to make quite a difference to your lives by learning Portuguese. So that's great. But when you got started, I hear that you started with apps. How did you get on with that? What was that first foray into Portuguese like?
Well, so it was kind of, I mean, it was a little tough, I'll be honest. There, from two perspectives. The first being like, I felt like a lot of the apps, they just kind of throw words at you, just like random words. Like, this is how you say this specific word without context. And then it's hard to kind of really gain traction with that. And then you'd get 2 weeks into using an app and then discover, well, these are actually also like Brazilian Portuguese, and some of it might be idiomatic, like local to Brazil, not phrases or words that would be common on the mainland of Portugal. And so, it becomes heartbreaking. It's like, oh man, I'm investing all this energy into something that probably isn't going to really help me, right? Or not help me as much as maybe we would hope, right?
Yeah, so our first start, we had a few false starts. Like we're kind of hodgepodging a lot of different resources online and apps, and it just felt all over the place and really unfocused. And we felt frustrated because we weren't feeling like we're making much progress.
Yeah. That's really common in the beginning, and let me know in the chat, guys, if you can relate to this. I'm sure lots of people have been through this process. And if you have any questions for Esther and Michael, please feel free to put them in the chat and the comments as well. At the end, we'll have time to look at a couple of those and get some advice from them as well. So yeah. Apps felt like a full start, bit too frustrating. Everything was all over the place. But when you joined us in Portuguese Pro last summer, what were some of the breakthroughs that you were able to make when you got started?
Absolutely. And we should definitely want to say, like, we had been watching Liz's, your videos on YouTube for a while. So we were becoming familiar with the way you teach and how approachable and fun and practical and accessible the content was. And so I think at some point we realized, oh, she offers a course. That's awesome. So we jumped on that. We jumped on your webinar, and my background is in teaching. So I doubly appreciated your approach to the structure of the class. I think it's super smart. But do you want to speak about, like what we appreciate so much about the course and stuff?
Yeah, I really feel like when we started, you hit the ground running with module 1, and it's like immediately you've given us like phrases and way to interact already in the language, and like just the things that you could take into the real world and like immediately speak. You can go to a cafe and cafe, and boom, that's an entryway to like having a real conversation. Even if that's where it ends in Portuguese, it usually comes with a big smile and then a further interaction, and which is an opportunity to learn more, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So being able to actually have something that enabled you to start speaking straight away. I think this is one of the tips I do give people, because people often say, oh, well, I'm not ready to start speaking yet. I need to know X, Y, and Z before I start speaking. But my philosophy is actually quite different. I'm like, no, we need to be speaking from day one, because the longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be. So that's why we really do have this emphasis on, improving pronunciation, but also setting you up for these practical situations you're going to be in immediately. And you guys have done such a good job of doing this. Someone's asked in the chat about, will we get to hear you speak Portuguese? Absolutely. We always play a short recording of our students and their Portuguese. They're like, oh no, but it was so good. So definitely stay tuned to hear that. So that's fantastic. And if you have just tuned in, by the way, I'm here with my students Esther and Michael, who are sharing their experience of learning Portuguese to give you guys the confidence to do the same. They didn't speak a word of Portuguese when they moved to the Azores last year, and have now made incredible progress and have pretty much become local stars in their small town. We're going to talk about that in a minute, making lots of friends. So if this is something that you want to do as well, just go to talkthestreets.com/apply to see if you qualify for an application call with us, and hopefully come and join us inside the program. If this is sounding good and you want to find out more, then that is what you need to do. So we need to talk then about the progress you have made with your Portuguese. How are you feeling now about your Portuguese? Are you using it often? And then we'll go on to talk about some of the awesome friendships that you've made. Tell us how you feel now compared to when you got started, when you first arrived with zero Portuguese.
I definitely feel a shift in confidence, for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
It's humbling, because there's, you know that this will take time. It's a commitment, and it'll take more effort, of course. But at the same time, it's like we walk into a new place, social gathering or a store, and I don't feel so overwhelmed with trying a new phrase or new word. And I just go in thinking I'm either going to make a mistake, and I like asking the person, like kind of half jokingly, like, oh, is correcto? Or, and most times people really love that. They smile and they're like, correct, or, not correct.
Yeah.
Tell me. And that, like Michael has said, that has opened up more conversations than I would have ever expected. So yeah, that's been really lovely. Did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the shift for me as well as when we first started, learning and like really diving into learning. Like I was like timid about trying to practice, like, and now I am more than willing to just dive in and give it a shot, even if I get it wrong, right?
Yeah.
And but it's more of like just I'm not as worried about it. Just last week I was at a fundraising dinner and I had to introduce myself, and I did my best to do a 3-minute introduction all in Portuguese.
Wow, good for you.
It probably mostly sucked, I'll be honest.
But this is the difference when we talk about mindset.
Yeah, I didn't know I had to do that until about 10 minutes before. So I didn't have any time to prepare. It was all on the fly. And it was fine.
You got
everybody,
really nice feedback.
Yeah, everybody loved it that I even tried. And
that's wonderful. Yeah, because I always talk about this in terms of mindset. Like we have to be okay with being imperfect, and the fact that you guys have the confidence to dive in and try. That's what most people don't have, which is why they don't make the progress and they don't make the connections. So you guys have proved, as we're about to see from the friendships you've made and the different things you've been doing, that, you know, people are really appreciating this, and you're starting to open up so many doors for yourselves in terms of connecting with people. So I'm going to share a couple of photos because we want to hear about some of the people that you've met. So let me go ahead and add this to the stream. So who is this? Tell us about your new friends, Fatima and Michael, how you met them. This is you with Michael on his boat. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's that there is Miguel, and he's retiring this fall. He's a 3rd-generation boat builder from Setúbal. And yeah, he and his wife have lived their entire life, and we met them on the beach in Faial. They asked me to.
So wait, you met them on the beach? So you literally just struck up a conversation with them? How did you do that?
They were trying to take a photo, right?
They were trying to set up a selfie, and I offered to take their photograph.
And they speak no English. We should clarify. They don't speak any English. Yeah. So Michael offered to take a photo. And then we literally just stood there for half an hour.
Longer.
Speaking. And we got so excited. They were sharing photos with us. We were using the translation app when necessary to try to explain.
Yeah, it's Fatima there.
We were asking photos about them or questions about them. We got so excited. And by the end of it, they invited us to visit them in Setúbal. We're like, wow, really? Why are we so lucky to do? And we thought, you know, and then I thought, well, yeah, I would be nice to stay in touch. We'll see. And then sure enough, we did have a trip in Lisbon in April. And Fatima, she just kept reaching out. It was like, we're excited to see you. We want you to come. Let's have a lunch. Let's get together. And we spent the entire day together. We spent the entire day eating, drinking, seeing Rabida, and then what happened at the end? Do you want to share about that?
And then, Miguel took us to his workshop space, his workshop space, and showed us that boat that we're on there is the last boat that he's building. And when that's done, he's retiring, and a few other boats and things that had been left in the workshop that he had salvaged. And so, yeah, it was really just a special day.
Very
How did that feel? That seems like a pretty incredible, unique experience to have had.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. That's the kind of like experience you hope you're lucky enough to have whenever you live or travel anywhere, to meet somebody just.
Even if you do, even if you aren't fluent in the same language, right? It makes you realize it's like, human connection, it's like language is like the tool to have human connection, but you don't have to be like we were earlier in learning at that point.
Yeah.
So it was just like the catalyst for us to be able to just open this doorway to like meet them and start to get to know them. And I'm really looking forward to developing that relationship. And it's a big incentive for us to keep learning so we can have deeper, more nuanced conversations with them. So yeah, and they're visiting again in November.
Yeah, we'll see them in a few months.
Oh, I love that you have these like cute surrogate Portuguese parents. I have that as well in my building, and it's like the best thing ever to to have people, you know, that you connect with on that level. So a couple more photos then. This is the gardening course that you did, and the teacher was so impressed that you stayed for the duration of it and that you were able to keep up because it was all in Portuguese. How did you find that?
100%. Yeah, they sent an email out and I was like, this is totally up my alley. I really want to learn. And it was taught in 100% Portuguese, and the teacher is really such a generous, knowledgeable person, and he doesn't live on Faial, so it's even more of a special treat when he can come and teach. So I just went and signed up. I just figured, you know, I'm just gonna try my best, and we became like on friendly terms by the end of the week, and he admitted, he was kind of laughing, and he said, whenever anyone in the class is, you know, not a Portuguese speaker has been in the class, they always drop by the second day. He admitted he kind of dismissed me like, oh, you won't stick around.
Yeah.
He said that when I showed back up on the third day and the fourth day and eagerly writing notes and trying to keep up in Portuguese and translating in English, he was like, wow, okay, she's tougher than I thought. I'm going to
she's got it. I'm so proud of you.
His attitude and our relationship totally changed. And I got to meet lovely, lovely people in that class, like 20 people, all Portuguese speakers, and several are organic farmers in our community. So, yeah.
Phenomenal. And then the final story is that you are now selling your homemade products at the local market, which is incredible. So this is why everyone's talking about Esther and Michael. So how did you come up? How did this come about? And yeah, tell us what difference that's made to you kind of being welcomed and accepted by the community.
Yeah, this was so not planned, but we started making kimchi just to be resourceful because it's not sold here as of yet. So we thought, well,
now it is.
So we'll start making it, and the word kind of spread, and people who had already had kimchi were asking us for some. And then what is, I think, even more cool is we realized there's just so much curiosity in the community of people who knew about kimchi but never had the opportunity to try it. We've heard that multiple times, and they were excited about the opportunity to try it. And not only like curious about Korean food, this is like one of the biggest surprises. I've had several Portuguese women and young girls talk to me about Korean culture and pop culture.
Wow.
Like how much they love it, and they are telling me and schooling me about what bands and shows they like. I just find that so amazing. I love it so much. And they're just like, I love Korean culture, and here's why, and these are the shows. I'm like, wow, who would have ever thought like this would happen? So yeah, that's been one of the most unexpected, coolest experiences we've had here. And at the market, we meet, I think 90% of the people come by are people who live in Faial. So it's been really, really nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because I can see it's very emotional, right? Like people think when they think of learning languages, they think of, verb conjugations and vocabulary lists, but that's not what it's about, really. It really is about, like you say, it's a tool for human connection. And the fact that you've been able to take what we do together in the program and actually apply that in real life to meet real people and have these conversations is just brilliant. So I'm so proud. So everyone is very keen to hear your Portuguese. So you have done a special recording for us of a dialogue. So inside, just to explain to everybody else, inside my program, one of the things we put a huge emphasis on, as Michael was saying at the beginning, is prepping you for everyday situations with real life dialogues that also help you consolidate the grammar that we learn. So we are going to hear you guys do in the cafe so we can hear just how good you are sounding, an example of the type of thing you're able to do when you go out and about. So I'm going to add it, and hopefully the video is going to play perfectly.
This is Esther and Michael doing dialogue 3 at the cafe. Diga, por favor.
Queria uma meia de leite, se faz favor.
Sim. E mais alguma coisa?
Se calhar alguma coisa doce. O que é isto?
É um bolo de cenoura.
Ah, então não. Queria alguma coisa com chocolate?
Temos brownies.
Boa, pode ser. Vai levar 2.
É tudo.
E sim.
Fica 5,40 €.
Aceita cartão?
Aceitamos sim.
Pronto, obrigado.
Obrigada. Bom dia.
Your pronunciation is so good, and you both sound so fluid and confident when you do that. How does it feel to hear that? And have you found these dialogues really helpful for getting you ready for these types of situations?
Do you remember when we first saw that dialogue?
I don't.
I didn't.
I mean, I kind of.
It was so
yeah.
cool, Liz, because we were picking the dialogue, and I was like, I remember when we first saw this, we were like stumbling on every syllable. And so I give us a little pat on the back. It's like, wow, it's cool to hear the progress and how
Absolutely.
that's where we've gotten. There's obviously, I'm sure, little places we can still like improve and fine tune.
Teeny weeny tweaks.
Yeah, but it's so encouraging. It was kind of surprising because you're when you're in it, you're like you forget, and then taking that step back and revisiting an earlier dialogue, we're like, wow, that's pretty dang cool. Like we've actually like made more progress than we even realized, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, and one awesome thing too, which I think speaks to your course and like jumping into the conversational stuff, is that really from the beginning, every phrase that we had tried, people like gave really great feedback and saying that like our pronunciation sounded very good, and like I attribute that entirely to the course and you, Liz. Like you give us the tools to succeed in that, and like all of the pronunciation workshop pieces just really kind of sets you up to be understood. And yeah, I mean that's something that we would hear a lot, like, oh wow, like you speak really well, and then there's
and then
some
that builds your confidence, right? It becomes a virtuous cycle, because the more you get complimented, the more you want to try, which is the opposite of what a lot of people experience, because they go out and they say something very nervously and not with great pronunciation, and when they're met with a blank face, then it kind of sets off the opposite cycle, right? Which I'm sure some people have experienced as well. So that really is my advice for everybody. If you can nail the pronunciation very early on, you will start to get these compliments that will allow you to keep progressing and improving. So again, if you've just joined in, I'm here with Esther and Michael, who are my students, sharing their experience of learning Portuguese to give you guys the confidence to do the same. They didn't speak a word of Portuguese when they arrived in the Azores last year, and have now made incredible progress, as we've just seen from their latest dialogue recording. So if you're interested in joining us, all you need to go to is talkwithstreets.com/apply, fill in the form there, and we will get back to you with whether you qualify for an application call. We would love to see you inside of the program. If that is sounding good and you want to find out more, that is where you need to go. So what's next for you guys with your Portuguese? I'm kind of on your back, so I want you to get through to module 3 and start speaking practice. Tell me how that's going.
Finished module 3.
You did finish module 3. Yes. Okay, great. So you're halfway through.
Our language exchange partner. A couple things I wanted to say I really appreciated about the course too that stands out is the weekly live meetings that people have the option to go to. I found them extremely helpful. Like hearing my pronunciation corrected live, hearing other people's pronunciation corrected, because there are often things that everybody's kind of stumbling on, having questions answered and stuff like that. I just found that so immensely helpful. So it really makes this experience stand out. It's like along with like really great course content.
Yeah, and that's the piece I enjoy the most as well, because I love meeting you guys every week. It's such a joy to keep seeing you progress. As you said, the way your Portuguese differs now from where it was a year ago is really, really exciting to see. So I'm really glad to hear that. Very glad to hear you're now halfway through and that speaking practice is going to be your next challenge. And then I guess the most important part is, what advice do you have for the people who are watching, who think, wow, okay, I wish I could have the type of experiences they're having. I want to integrate just like they have. What would some of your advice be? And then we'll tackle a few of the questions from the comments. Mhm.
Did you want to jump in or?
Yeah, I can jump in. Well, I think just the first thing is just trying to speak. I think is the boundary that like needs to be broken, because we've found that just by trying, it opens up. Even if the conversation even goes very quickly to English, we're making that connection, and that's what allows us to have the other experiences. And then some of them don't go to English because we're in Portugal and
Mhm.
not everybody speaks English.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of our
and
neighbors.
just by continuing to try to communicate, even if it's haphazard and
Imperfect, yeah.
imperfect, there's still that connection is being made, and so being open to it, right?
Yeah, and I love seeing that other people have this experience in the Portuguese pro community when people share what their experiences are. This might have been really obvious, but it wasn't to me when we began learning. It's like we live in a relatively small community, but I would imagine it's similar like with wherever you live, like in terms of a neighborhood, like in Lisbon, or you start to see the same barista, the same shopkeeper, and I didn't expect this, but because they see and hear evidence of us learning, they're invested. Like
Yeah.
they expect that, but people, I didn't think ahead about that possibility, but people are like genuinely enthusiastic and invested in us learning. They're just like, oh, you said that. Yeah, that was great. That's improved from last time. I see that y'all have progressed. Oh, wow. Or like, some shopkeepers will just speak all in Portuguese at us because they think we're way more fluent than we are. And we're like, oh, now percebi. Repetir, se faz favor, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, oh, I thought you were." We're getting there. We're getting there. So
Yeah,
it's so encouraging. It's like our community is like kind of bolstering us. Like I don't know, cheering us on. I think.
Or also because people know that we're wanting and willing to learn, they speak in Portuguese
Yeah.
and slowly too to
Yeah.
help us
Mhm.
hear and understand. I've found that happens at a few of our kind of favorite go-to places where, so it is the community is like helping us and lifting us
Yeah.
Yeah,
up.
it's like you've got all these extra teachers, and this is why I always tell you guys, and even on my channel as well, I say, use Portugal as your classroom. Yes, I'm here to be your teacher, but the best teachers you could ever have are the people in the wild, as you say, who are, tracking your progress and testing you and having you, really, really try. So I love that you've managed to employ a few people in that sense. So we did have a few questions. Maybe let's put a couple of these on the screen so you can answer. Let me see. We had one. I'm trying to look through now here. So one here. Did you have any issues with mainland Portuguese versus the Azores Portuguese?
Not that I'm.
This is something people usually worry about. They're like, "Oh, this is Portuguese, but how am I going to get on with the dialect and the regional kind of accent in the Azores?" Have you found it much of a struggle?
I think we're at the point where we're getting better at recognizing and hearing the difference, not only between mainland and Azores, but it's cool to learn about the differences between each island.
Each island, yeah.
Like we learned about, we've been hearing how Faial has a more, of course, like Flemish influence, and how that might have impacted the
local dialect.
Yeah, versus San Miguel and the other islands. So that's super fascinating. So yeah, I think we're starting to get better about picking that out a little bit. I don't know. Have you experienced like people's reactions?
Well, I think to speak to the questions like directly, I know because we might have set the tenor of the conversation in a weird direction by bringing up how the apps some of them are Brazilian Portuguese, and you kind of get into that heartbreak. I think there are some Brazilians who live on the island that I've spoken to, and they've talked about how there are different pronunciations, but everybody can still understand each other.
Yeah.
It's still the same language, right? And there might be idioms that don't exist. Like there are definitely phrases, and I won't say them here because some of them are not for primetime television. But we were told about a specific phrase that the locals like to use when mainlanders visit.
As a joke.
Okay.
As a joke. But it's in good fun, but it is kind of crass. So, but the Lisboner doesn't know the phrase, right? So
yeah.
But
So in terms of the Portuguese that you've been learning as kind of standard European Portuguese, it's still perfectly exactly, it's still understandable. It's just small tweaks in terms of the accent and maybe some phrases, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no confusion or problem there. So.
Makes sense. And then Peter asks, how long do you practice per day?
It's kind of ranged. We didn't mention this, but when we first started, we were living here and we had to go back to the US for 4 months, where it was a little bit challenging to keep up that accountability to ourselves, I admit. But we got back on board when we came back in February. So we've been trying to devote, I think, a few times a week at least. Right. And we try to, it depends on the person, but for us, I feel like we try to only listen to 1, maybe 2 lessons at a time. That's enough. And we talk about it and we write notes, and sometimes we transfer things to index cards. And on a side note, you asked about advice. I was going to mention, we all carry phones, but I carry this little notebook.
You've got a little book going on.
Yeah, and it seems obvious because you can look up stuff when in the moment. Yes, of course. But the other additional thing is, again, like when people are seeing you, like that evidence of like, no, she's like, y'all are writing it down. Y'all are taking the time to learn. It adds another level of like, just, I guess, credibility or trust. It's like, oh, you're invested in living here and learning about our culture. It goes a long way. So I don't know.
And then also, like, we practice whenever we leave the house too.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of harder to quantify, right? Like, you can't say, oh, that's X number.
But it's the important one. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so I always say to people little and often. So I really agree with what Esther said there, keeping it short and making sure that you're actually absorbing what you're learning rather than doing very long sessions. But yeah, 2 or 3 short sessions a week, making sure you're always speaking Portuguese when you actually leave the house. And I love that you're taking around the notebook, because as you say, it really does prove to people that that's what you're trying to achieve. So that is awesome. And then before we wrap up, because we have run out of time, would you recommend the Portuguese Pro program to anyone watching?
Absolutely.
We definitely would. Yeah, we wish we had done it earlier. To be honest.
Yeah, and we're not just saying that. Like, it's absolutely,
would have saved us some time and heartache. But but we're grateful for you and your team creating and keeping this course and community going. And and it's so cool to see other people's wins and their progress. It's really encouraging for us to see.
Yeah, having the community, I think, is such an important aspect, because you guys are all going through the same thing. And so to be able to share your experiences and to learn from each other is such an important piece of it. So you guys have definitely been shining inspiration in the community. So I thank you wholeheartedly for that as well. But that is all we have time for. We've even gone a little bit over because we had so many great stories to tell. But thank you so much for joining me. I know that you're going to have inspired a lot of people today. And if you do want to do this too, you want to be able to speak Portuguese, unlock this whole new life, and be truly welcome and accepted by your new community, please do apply to Portuguese Pro. talkthestreets.com/apply. We sometimes have a little bit of a wait list, but we do always get through the applications as quickly as we can. So we would love to have you join us. So it's been absolutely wonderful to have you. But I will say, beijinhos, obrigada. I will see you next week in the live sessions. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Beijo.
Beijinhos.
Ciao. It's a breath.